tread the boards, I think. So I sat there or stood there and thought, I'm completely out of my depth here. I haven't got a clue how to help this fella. Visionary, tick. You need one of those.
So on this week's episode of the Engaging Marketeer, I am joined by Les Murray of 2020, who I first met at a Public Speakers Association meeting, I believe, Les. Is that correct?
PSA, yeah.
PSA. So tell me, what took you to the PSA and what's your interest in public speaking?
Well, that's a good place to start.
Isn't it? I know, I do like to ask the good questions.
I guess because I thought at the time that the world, I think when I moved into the PSA, that was during COVID, wasn't it? It was about 2-3 years ago.
COVID was still a thing, but yeah, there was no separation or anything. There was no keep 2 meters apart from people.
Yeah, and I've never really had much aspiration for doing stuff on stage.
Have you not?
No.
Oh, I have.
No, not for me.
I have.
I did some of that early career, and big conference presentations, etc. But that wasn't my drive. I think my interest was really around doing stuff online. And webinars in particular.
I think that's where we first clicked, wasn't it? Because in that first meeting, you wanted someone to help you put a webinar together.
Yeah.
And I'd literally just done that, so that's why we started talking.
Yeah. I think that's right. So, and like everything, there's much more to it than meets the eye. You make assumptions from the outside. That looks really easy until you try it.
Yeah.
And I think I'd probably had 1 or 2 ham-fisted attempts at doing a webinar. And I thought, honestly, the PSA would help me ascend that ladder, but I'm not sure it has.
You're not sure it has?
Well, because it is built for the stage, in terms of that's its focus. And it's not really about, there's some basics associated with that, clearly, that transfer to online. But they don't have an offering or they don't have an avenue in that particular space.
Yeah. So did you pick anything up from it, do you think, that helped you with doing that?
Yeah, well, not on webinars, but I think on a whole host of other things. I actually find myself being quite a strong advocate of the PSA because it's helped me look more critically at my own business and how I market myself and what I'm trying to do and how to formulate and get a message out there. It's a very open forum of people who are on very similar journeys to the one that I'm on. And I actually find that as a support group, network, conversations to chew things over, problem solve, it's actually a very helpful community. And believe it or not, there's some excellent speakers.
There are some excellent speakers there, yeah.
So, on a Thursday night or whenever it is, you'll go along thinking, why am I really going this time? And be highly entertained, discover something, learn something new. So, to that extent, I've actually really quite enjoyed it. It's a very low pressure environment, mind you. I haven't taken to the stage.
Oh, someone's left their phone on, Les.
Yeah, well...
Someone's left their phone on, Les. That's
a cardinal sin.
Well, that's up to the editors whether they cut that one out or whether they let it in.
Oh, yeah, I can't get rid of it. Okay, sorry about that.
This is live, mate. This is live.
Is that ringing, is it?
That was ringing, yeah, I could hear that, yeah.
Okay.
Microphone hears everything. Apologies. That's all right. So are you still a member of the PSA?
Yeah.
You are. And how do you find the meetings? Because I really enjoyed it. I found it was kind of like organized chaos, and everybody in the room was the kind of personality that wanted to be the center of attention. And I didn't like that because I want to be the center of attention, so I'm like everybody else in the room. Probably apart from yourself, because I don't think you're like that. But most people I found were all like big, massive personalities.
Yeah.
And I found it was a lot of competition for me. My ego couldn't take it.
Yeah, I think I once heard a description. It's a bit like turning up at drama school.
Yeah.
And, that there is, because everybody's got a voice and they want to be heard. Yeah, there's an element of that. I mean, it's, it is quite an extrovert environment for sure. But no, I think it's a very healthy community. And whenever I've reached out to people like yourself, others, thinking about doing this, what's your experience on that? Or indeed, there's a piece of work I'm doing with a client at the moment. I've run a particular study on them using a profiling tool. Somebody else in the group's got very good experience of working with that. So just bouncing that around with them in terms of, well, what do you think of this profile? Well, what's this telling you? So I've actually found it, really quite an engaging group to be with, enjoyable.
Oh, it's definitely engaging. I mean, the only reason I actually stopped was because it clashed with something else I did on Thursdays.
All right.
And it meant I was travelling from Peterborough, usually leaving about 2:00 in the afternoon to get to Warrington for about 5:30, 6 o'clock. And it was a rush. And I picked up a couple of speeding fines on the way while doing that, but we won't go into that too much.
Yeah.
But it meant I was struggling to get there on time. It was too much of a rush for me. And yeah, it's just the day of the month, unfortunately, when it hits.
Well, it's moving to Wednesday.
Is it?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Cat's cracking the whip.
Kat is cracking the whip. Kat, the new president, who's been on this podcast herself.
Yeah, well, she's a good girl. She's organised, and it clashes with her cello night. So it's moving to Wednesday.
So she's moved it because it clashes with her cello.
Yeah, so much for democracy and any votes. She's decided, El Trumpo, that it's going to be on. It's going to be on a Wednesday.
I've never heard Kat described as Trump before.
Well, but no, there's a decision-making process that I think is kind of akin to that.
Okay. So, well, if it's moving to a Wednesday, I could probably do it again.
Yeah. Well, see you there.
I don't see any reason why not. Yeah, it's like in 2 weeks' time, I think, isn't it, from when we're recording this right now?
I think they have a conference, and then, we skip October, so it'll be November.
It's November, okay. Yeah. All right, well, fantastic. I'll look out for that then.
Next year it moves to Wednesday.
Next year it might... Oh, hang on, next year.
Yeah, so it's still Thursday, I think, until
You're
Christmas.
toying with my emotions.
I am, but then my recall is slow.
Right, so next year it moves to Wednesday.
Yeah,
because of Kat's cello night.
Yeah.
That's as good a reason as any. One of the reasons I joined the PSA originally is because unlike you, I wanted to do more stage work. And I thought it would help me get onto stages. It would help me with advice. It would help me with pitching. It would help me with contacts. And I didn't find that it did that for me. And that was the big thing that I wanted help with. Have you done any in-person talks as a result of it? Have you got anything?
No, but I haven't pushed that agenda. What I have found that I've got from it is I do a lot of workshop activity. Right. So there's various tools and techniques that I use in workshops and various things that I work on. So in terms of how I stage a workshop, in terms of how I structure it, icebreakers, formats, and all the rest of it, again, helpful conversations to have with other people because there's a number of quotes, trainers, consultants, facilitators within the group. So that's been helpful. That said, because of the way my work profile is changing, and I think also my market reach is changing, I would like to tread the boards, I think. So there is actually a course. I've been speaking with Heather about this.
Okay.
And Sue, because I think they both coach and facilitate it together with Penny, which is some GoPro kind of development course. So for another couple of £100, half a dozen sessions, here's how to engage with speaker bureaus. This is what they're looking for. These are the assets you need to have.
So that's exactly the kind of thing that I actually wanted.
Yeah, and that was, well, exactly. But so it's kind of like, okay, you're a member, but you have to pay a premium, but fair dues. And of course, with those characters, lots of, experience, they drip it. And they've got, and they do it. They're on the road doing speaking. So, I've been sort of badgering Heather, when's it happening? Because I'd quite like to go through that so as to do a little bit more speaking. But that's for 2026.
All right, that's your plans for next year?
Well, that's one of them, yeah.
And how did it go with the webinars? Because that's what you were originally looking to do. You said you did a couple early on that were, what was the phrase you used, ham-fisted or?
Yeah, a bit amateur hour.
Yeah.
I learned a lot, like all of these things, you learn a lot from doing any one of these processes. I think for me, webinars were pretty poor ROI. Started a few conversations off the back of them. A huge amount of effort,
They are, aren't they?
huge outreach, marketing, second wave, third wave, emailing, blah, blah. And then, 6 people show up. And but so that was disappointing. But also, I think critically for me, the format. You sort of learn constraints about the medium, I suppose. But I would have ideally wanted it to be more interactive. But because of the nature of the technology and you're online, not really able to do as much as one would really like to be able to do. But I'm sure there's ways around that. But I didn't know them.
Yeah, I personally hate doing webinars because I don't like the fact that you can't see the audience and you can't interact with them. I much prefer a face-to-face talk because if I can see the audience, I can see who's resonating with it, who's not, who I need to push a little bit further. If somebody I can see is a little bit distracted, I can pull them back into it. So you get somebody on their phone, for example, you can make a joke about that and pull them in. On a webinar, you've got none of that. You don't know if what you're saying is landing.
Yeah.
You've no idea if they're listening, if they're driving a car, if they're doing the ironing, if they're watching TV. It just doesn't work, and you feel like you're talking to yourself.
Yeah.
I hate that.
Yeah.
I need an audience.
Yeah, and I think the way I felt I was performing in webinar scenarios was kind of like a lecturer. So it was very one way. And, people, there was some interesting questions and stuff that would happen. But you just want more of a more two-way dialogue as you go through material, really.
Yeah.
It's just sparkier.
So tell me about 2020. What's your remit with that? How do you help people?
Well, I set 2020 up over 10 years ago, and I really did it because it was a reaction to everything else that I've been doing in my sort of previous corporate life. So, I sort of describe myself as being in my third career. So first career was retail, and that was marketing and operations for about 20 years, and then 10 years in large-scale corporate restructuring with a big heavy emphasis on taking headcount out.
So that means getting rid of people.
Getting rid of people, yeah, big time. And strangely enough, I actually quite enjoyed that task.
We're going to push on that in a little bit, but just brace yourself for that. Okay.
Well, there's a lot to be said for it, and we can have a good argument.
Because there's a George Clooney film about that.
Yeah, well, I was living proof of that because I was very much in that lifestyle without the sex, I hasten to add.
Right.
But the hotels and airlines and all the travel, I was doing a huge amount of travel. And the last really great gig that I did in a project was over in Hong Kong with a super team, and we delivered a fantastic result and thoroughly enjoyed it. But I kind of knew that was my last gig. I knew that was the last one. And I was desperate to sort of work locally, sleep in my own bed at night rather than, some holiday inn or...
So what was that gig? What did you do in Hong Kong that was so good?
Well, it was another headcount reduction.
Headcount reduction?
Yeah.
Just went in and sacked a load of people?
Yeah, in an environment where the economy was growing at 10% per annum for probably the previous 15 years, where headcount reduction just didn't exist. It's not in the way of thinking. It's not the British model, if you want to put it that way. And certainly words like outplacement don't exist, which was kind of...
Outplacement?
Yeah, where you sort of help people find their next position.
Oh, I see. Right.
So those kind of services, those kind of concepts are completely foreign. In Hong Kong, they had no notion of it. And we helped them free up something like 15% of their overhead and redistribute it across other companies within the overall group that we were working for in the Far East. over a process of about 3-4 months, something like that. So it was a really successful project. Everybody very happy. Nobody actually terminated. They were just transferred. And 2 years later, they returned back to the company because they were having to deal with a sort of slump in demand that was very forecastable. So, it was that kind of stuff that I did for 10 years. And I enjoyed it. It was genuinely enjoyable work, actually.
You wouldn't expect somebody doing that kind of work to say, "Oh, I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
That was good fun."
Yeah, it was good fun.
Traveling around the world, sacking people.
Well, I didn't actually... I wasn't the one who actually fired the bullets, but I certainly...
You loaded the gun.
Loaded the gun.
You aimed.
Printed
Somebody
the
else.
list of names, yeah. But, and I suppose my biggest number that I actually achieved in that regard was 2,500. So...
People.
People, yeah.
2,500
People.
Wow. Okay. Not for one company.
For one company. So that was an accumulation of various jobs that had been going on over probably about 18 months, 2 years, which came to a head in quite a dramatic moment. And the pressure was on, share price under pressure, all those kind of things. And very satisfying assignment. Because you save a company. And
so how many people were working at the company that still had jobs? Because it sounds like a lot. 2,500 people sounds a lot, but presumably there was...
Yeah, that was about 7%, I think.
Right, so it's a massive company.
So big company, yeah. So 2,500 people in a single community like Chester would be, major impact. But no, this is 2,500 over a number of facilities.
There's over 30,000 people in that company now.
Yeah, I think the headcount that we were zoning in on was of a particular type, white-collar engineering, was somewhere around 29,000. And total headcount 45, I think, from memory. Which is now, as a business, closer to 60 or maybe even 70. So
they've survived and they've thrived.
They needed to make an adjustment. It's a very sobering moment when you get invited to a meeting by the president of a division of a company, and you're sat down and you have a nice coffee and a bit of banter about the flight to get here and all that sort of thing. And then they ask you a question like, guess how many orders we processed last quarter? And you sort of go, well, £2 billion company, order book of 3, so you must have processed 250, 500, what's the number? Zero. Just imagine how many cancellations we received last quarter. Ooh, now you've got me thinking. Cancellations on existing contracts. Yeah, there's penalty clauses and all the rest of it. And the commercial team obviously have a lot of things to unpick when a cancellation comes in. But guess how many cancellations we had last quarter? Oh, God, now you've got me going, I don't know, 300, 500? 1,500.
1,500.
Yeah. So a company, senior team, looking at an order book like that kind of scenario, doesn't take very long for the cash to run out. So they're very accomplished at, managing their customers, managing their supply chain in a much more steady state environment. They've got relationships, they've got product focus, they've got engineering capability. They've got real depth and skills in so many different areas of running that business. But when they need to make an adjustment to a change in demand like that, very often they are just a little bit lost. And the unit that I was working with, that was our sweet spot. That's what we were really good at. And we could crank out an answer in terms of where our value added was being generated, where it was being destroyed. And if you set various demand parameters, how you should set and balance the workforce to trade through the next cycle. So it was a very powerful formula, very enjoyable, but the travel sucked.
Flying around the world. Yeah.
Flying around the world, drinking lots of wine, which again isn't necessarily always good for you. But
Sounds awful, mate. Sounds awful.
But no, what was satisfying is you worked on something that really mattered. You got inside a business strategy. You really understand where the difference was made within this business, what really mattered, what counted, what they were trying to save, what was, nice to do, but we could, that could take a bit of a bath. And navigate and plot a course in terms of, ensuring a company's survival. So, whether it was 200 people, 500 people, 2,500 people that had to move on, you were saving a lot of jobs.
I'm guessing you can't tell us the name of that company.
I'd prefer not to.
Can you say the industry? Or?
Engineering, and probably one of the country's biggest engineers, yeah.
Wow. So that was Bangkok. I take it they're international as well.
Yeah.
Wow. And what would have happened if you hadn't done what you'd done?
They would have probably found someone else. But they would have probably had to borrow more debt, increase their cost of sales. They would have probably done some stuff to themselves, probably, which they did do. They tended to do. They took some fairly easy, straightforward measures like, releasing contractors, put pressure on the supply chain, procurement pressure, etc., all that kind of classic stuff. But they weren't going to make any significant structural change where structural change is required. They weren't going to reshape some of the divisional boundaries. And they certainly weren't going to sweat their overhead assets any harder than they felt necessary. There's too much self-interest at play. So they would have plodded on, meandered on, but it would have been suboptimal.
So you said you've got a formula for doing this. Does that
used to do all this?
Used to. Did that take into consideration anything about the personal aspect of the employee? So family, whether they have mortgages.
Well, no, we didn't go into that, but as a general rule, you make 100 people redundant. 30 people are punching the air with delight. It couldn't have happened at a better time in their lives. Another third are not very happy about it at all. Massive inconvenient mortgages, new family, whatever the stress or pressure may be. And a third are usually, that's that then. Well, we'll just go and get another job. So it's not usually terribly traumatic for the whole population, if I can put it that way. Of course, I think it was Harold Wilson who said, unemployment might only be 5%, but if it's 100% in this household, it's pretty crushing. But you don't know the individual circumstances of those people. You just know that their role is no longer justified.
Wow.
So that's it.
And the experience you've got with that, which is quite in depth, how's that helped you with working with smaller businesses that you do now?
Well, what I found, ironically, was, and I'll never forget my visit to a workshop in Warrington for the first client potential prospect that I reached out to. And I listened to this guy speak about his operations and his business and his client mix and, all the challenges he was experiencing. And I sat there or stood there and thought, I'm completely out of my depth here. I haven't got a clue how to help this fella. If he wanted to lay off 10% of his staff, well, we could probably do that in a coffee break because there's only 35 people here, and that's really not on his agenda. He's got a whole host of other issues that he's grappling with. and he's severely restricted on his bandwidth. And I don't actually have the vocabulary to help this fella. I don't know really what's going on. I haven't experienced the pain that he's experiencing. This is my first day out speaking to somebody who's going through, growing pains with a business. So that for me was quite a major wake-up call in terms of, you arrogant swine, you've been floating around business class, first class travel, staying in swanky hotels, wherever, boardroom consulting, doing big engagements, saving millions of pounds, adding value to share prices and all those good things. But, the real dirt under the fingernail moment, when it comes down to it, you're completely at sea, you know nothing. And it spurred me on to invest massively in myself in terms of a whole new learning around what it really is like to be a founder, entrepreneur, the sleepless nights that people incur, the personal as well as the business in terms of the balance that people need to strike. And lots of stuff before you come down to actually thinking about, okay, so I've got a very good product here, whatever it may be, or service. How do I scale it? Which markets? With what? How do I distinguish it? How do I make it stand out? How am I going to provide operational capability to support that in the field? In another territory where I'm not represented, how do I do partnership deals, distributors, etc.? How do I get organized on all that? Who do I need to speak to? So I find myself that for probably 2 to 3 years, actually, I put myself through a massive learning curve, joining organizations, reading, completing courses, gaining certifications, all that kind of good stuff. It's part of, I've got this badge, that stripe, and this pip. And slowly building up a portfolio of clients and gaining client experience and doing it. But I did find that, and I'm not the first person to say this, but nice, shiny, bright, impressive reading corporate CV doesn't cut it in SME land.
That's an interesting point.
Well, it just doesn't. Because you're so far removed from what actually happens to make a business grow.
So if you thought that you weren't sure how you could help people with your corporate experience, how did you plug that gap? How did you fill the gap in your knowledge for you to be able to help businesses?
Well, as I said, I sort of put myself through a number of courses and different experiences and such like. And I guess what I did was, in a nutshell, took off the consulting hat and put a coaching hat on.
Right.
And focused much more on the business leader and founder, invariably. And working on, quotes, their psychology, their outlook on the world, as well as their skill sets and their ability to lead as a person, and introduce some management practices which inevitably are founded on management systems and processes, and helping people actually translate visions into reality. So lots of people wake up with lots of bright ideas every day, but very small percentage ever actually see the light of day. And even in relatively small businesses where you would have thought that translating something from that vision to reality is quite a short journey, well, you'll know only too well that there's a lot of pain and agony in building a new product or service or add on to whatever it is that you do already. It's complicated. It gets complicated very quickly. There's resource requirements. There's a system IT upgrade that's required. There's implications which are hidden that you haven't actually seen at the outset. And for a lot of people, that can be very overwhelming. And they can give up and have another bright idea the next day.
Shiny penny syndrome.
Absolutely. And so they're in this kind of whirlpool chasing a dream, but all they're doing is having a dream.
Does that come to personality types, though? Because there are certain kinds of people that have ideas and are creative, but they're not finishers. And they need people around them or a business partner that is a finisher to be able to finish the projects or the ideas that they have. Because I'm not really a finisher. I come up with the ideas, somebody else implements them. Because if it was left to me, I would get distracted and come up with another idea. I want to do that. It's the case, you can't run a business like that on your own.
No,
you need the support around you. Probably where you come in.
Well, you need a team. And I think there is a makeup to the team. There's some key ingredients in terms of the type of player that you require. And for sure, visionary, tick. You need one of those to, set out the path. This is where we're going. This is what we're going to do. This is what we're going to create. This is the destination. This is what we're going to own. This is the voice we're going to be. But yeah, you need an integrator or an orchestrator who can actually go, right, okay.
You need a detail person.
Yeah, that sounds nice. That sounds great. But what do you mean by, and how's that going to happen? And how much money are we putting into this thing to
you need a Steve Wozniak to a Steve Jobs.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So there's definitely a partnership that should be present around that. But then as you scale and grow, then invariably some of the talents that you may have outsourced to various providers, not least marketing, you might choose to think, it's timely now to actually bring some of that in-house, and I need that voice round the table upstream when we're making decisions about this, so that we have a more informed perspective of where we're going and how we're going to do it. So for me, business leadership is much more about the team and less about the individual. And that is how, it's one of the key ingredients anyway, in terms of how you get out of this shiny penny trap.
But there are people like myself who are the visionary people that have the ideas. They don't want to bring somebody else around them because they fear that they're going to steal their ideas. They're going to slow them down, or they're going to stop them doing what they want to do, or they're going to take their ideas and set up in competition. There's just this general mistrust of others. So consequently, they end up just crackpot weirdos with loads of ideas and nothing ever really happens. You see them on Dragon's Den all the time. Look, I've invented this in my study. It took me 9 years to come up with, and I've not spoken to anybody about it. I won't tell anybody about it. That, I think, is a problem where people set up businesses and they don't really know what to do. And they shouldn't be in business for themselves on their own. They need that help around them, but they have an inherent inbuilt fear of asking for that help or trusting people to be able to do it.
Yeah, I think that is a serious point. That's a serious issue.
Made in a non-serious way, I suspect.
But no, I think I would probably frame it slightly differently, that what you're describing is almost like a product zealot. He's totally focused on, the transistor or the piece of software or whatever it is that gets them out of bed in the morning and work late into the night. But actually, no, you need to build a business to be able to bring that to market.
Yeah.
You need to be able to win a commercial argument so that you can actually price it and sell it and actually fund its development.
Yeah. If they try on their own, it's not going to work.
Yeah, and as soon as you put a business wrapper like that around it, well, that's probably a different set of skills and capabilities from what this individual brings, which is a fantastic creative talent and zeal and love for what they do. But actually, that in itself is not sufficient. Doesn't cut it.
It's because I know a lot of people in my industry, in web design, who've tried to set up their own agencies and do it for themselves. And quite often they have a business partner who is also a web designer. So you've got two web designers trying to run a business together. Neither of them understands operations. Neither of them is detail orientated. Neither of them is interested in sales or, quite frankly, speaking to anybody. All they want to do is build websites. Most of them fail.
Yeah.
Most of them fail. because they just want to sit behind a computer doing designing, being all artsy-fartsy creative and do the fun stuff. But you need a yin to your yang. You need somebody different to you. Or, as you've said, you need a team. You need people to do the stuff that you're crap at, the stuff that you can't do, the stuff that you don't have the skill to do. Otherwise, it's just not going to work.
Yeah, I've heard so many tales of the kind of website designer that you're kind of describing, who a couple of years out from trying things on their own, from having escaped big corporate, they begin to realize and appreciate all the other jobs that their colleagues did.
Yeah.
And it's a very painful lesson learned that, you know, I think everyone should have a go at it, I have to say. I would love to see people in the public sector give it a run out and see just how far they got.
I imagine.
Yeah, exactly.
It wouldn't be far, I suspect.
It would not be far.
Would not be far. What do you mean we've got to produce results?
Exactly.
What do you mean I don't get 30 days off a year? What are you talking about?
Yeah, so I think, yeah, it would be a really interesting to see what kind of long-term psychological effect that would have.
And I agree, everybody should give it a go. Because from our perspective, when we're hiring web designers, which we've done for like the last 16 years, it's much better if that web designer is already trying to go freelance.
Yeah, well, I totally agree.
Then they know the difficulties with it, and they welcome the security of having somebody doing the sales aspect for them and doing the operations for them and doing the billing and the invoicing for them. They just get to do the fun stuff of building websites. Whereas if you hire somebody who's never done that before, they'll be sat there building websites going, do you know what? I could do this myself. I could go out and start my own business.
I had the privilege once, earlier career, of sitting on assessment panels for recruitment. And I was always struck by the perception that some of the most impressive candidates that came forward were people who were precisely what you've just described, who had a go of doing their own thing, setting up a soft drinks business, you know, knocking on the doors of Tesco, negotiating contracts with Asda, whoever it was, and had some drive and verve about them. And
you can't teach that, can you?
Yeah, absolutely not. And the X factor that we would invariably use to describe it was just gumption. And, you know, they would sail through and get job offers. And it was really very much for them to decide whether actually this company is one that I really want to work with. You know, is this going to help me in my little journey rather than, oh, I got a job. Yeah, so to that extent, as a life-enhancing experience, which is guaranteed to leave you bruises, I think everybody, especially public sector, should have a go.
A real thing for the public sector today, haven't we?
Don't get me started. But that is, I think that would unleash such a change in attitude across the country. I mean, I am struck. I mean, I'm obviously a little bit longer in the tooth than you. And I will say that in my little lifetime, in Little Blighty, there is a much stronger sense of enterprise culture than certainly there was when I started out 30, knocking on 40 years ago.
Yeah, you say?
Yeah, without question. And I say that not because I'm in it more actively than I was 30, 40 years ago, but I think there's definitely more recognition of it and there's more encouragement of it. I think it was largely unheard of 30, 40 years ago. So
do you think TV and social media could play a part in that? Because we all watch stuff like The Apprentice, although they do pick the biggest bunch of dickheads they possibly can to go on The Apprentice, and Dragon's Den, and we've got Shark Tank in America of people going on. We're seeing them getting funding and starting businesses and getting investment. And then you've got people on TikTok and YouTube making money just pissing about on the internet. Do you think that's inspiring people to think, I can do this?
Yeah, I think it does. And I think like them, loathe them, hate them, but folks like Stephen Bartlett and, you know, people of his kind unquestionably encourage people to go and give it a whirl. Because I guess, some people probably see it as being a game of national lottery. If you win big, you win really big.
Well, I think Stephen Bartlett started his company the same time we started Engage Web.
Yeah,
Pretty sure it was 2009.
2009, right?
2009.
Well, he's done well, that young man.
He's done all right. He's made a couple of quid. He's done all right.
He's done all right.
He's got a podcast. I've got a podcast. What's the difference?
Yeah, exactly. Well, maybe...
He's got a book out. I've got a book out. We're practically the same.
Well, there you go. But I think that kind of individual is inspiring, for many more people. That kind of individual, did they exist when I were a lad? Nah, that wasn't the poster boy. Also, I suppose the poster boy that did arise was Sir Richard Branson. But, he was one of the pioneers in that respect.
Yeah. Who Richard Branson, I was talking about earlier on today, because we were talking about mentoring and coaching, and pointed out even Richard Branson has a coach.
Yeah.
Everybody needs help from somebody.
Yeah.
You can't do it all yourself. You need someone to fill in the gaps to what you haven't got.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
So I mentioned I've got a book out, but you also have a book, I believe, Les.
Yeah.
I feel like Graham Norton here, or Michael Aspel, if you're old enough. Well, you're old enough. If anyone's old enough to remember that. So tell me about your book.
Tell me about your book.
Tell me about your book coming out. I believe you've got a book here.
My book. Well, my book is my life's joy. Somebody said to me...
Can you say that with a bit more excitement on your face, Les?
Oh, it's been a joy.
My book is my life's joy.
Yeah, it's my pride and pleasure.
Yeah.
No, somebody did make a serious point to me that it's not the book you read that changes your life, it's the book you write.
Who said that?
I don't know. I think it's a non.
Oh, no, that's quite a good quote, that.
It is quite a nice quote, and I think it's very true. So I got the idea of writing a book around about this time last year, and
You've done it fairly quick, then.
Yeah.
Some people take a few years thinking about it and procrastinating.
Well, I think I came from a place which was, I'm not going to do that. Why would I do that? That's an awful lot of effort. I'm a lazy so-and-so. I'm not going to do that. But as I approached it and sat down to think about it and develop a plan for it, which was absolutely essential, and then found the time and the space to start writing it. So I've got a place up in Scotland I disappear to. And in the garden with the birds twittering away in the background, hunched over a Apple Mac.
Sounds idyllic.
It was. I bashed out my first manuscript. And I reckon I did my first manuscript in probably about 20 days.
That is fast.
It is fast. But I had a very good plan. So it took a few days to put a plan together before that.
Right. So you set yourself times the day you were going to do it. Stuck to it, no distractions.
Well, I was slow to start. I got very busy at work, clients, So the original timetable just got shunted to the right. And of course, then you're behind and then the whole schedule's screwed, not looking very pretty. So I booked myself a week up in Scotland to get back on track. And what that did for me was I got back on track, got lots of momentum, I was in flow, I found my voice, if I can put it that way, in terms of writing, and I just bashed it out. So I was very, very happy bunny. And then I handed it to a group of trusted friends to critique and have a poke at it and sort of not hold back with the criticism, please, boys and girls. Boy, was that a refreshing smack around the face. And that was so necessary. And I think processing all of that feedback, which was invaluable, I think has, for me, transformed the book from being, that's quite an interesting little read, into something that's of much more value and insight, because it's more rounded. It's not just my voice, I suppose there's other perspectives there, but it is my telling of the story, as it were. But I think that's unquestionably elevated the quality of the product. And anyway, if I took 20 days to write it, I think I probably took 40 days to review it, because there was just so much that was just needing to be redone. And then, of course, there's all the kind of graphics and everything else that you want to put in as value adds. And lo and behold, it ended up with 58,000 words.
58,000.
Yeah, so it kind of grew a bit during this process.
So I'm curious. You said that the feedback they gave you was a refreshing smack in the face. What sort of feedback did you get that you weren't expecting? Can you give us an example of one thing that they said that made you, oh yeah, actually I can change that. It's going to be much better.
I was just trying to think. I think there was lots of sequencing kind of feedback. You know, we all get so close to our subject that when we describe it or break it down, we think we've taken the audience with us as we do so.
Because we've taken ourselves along in writing it.
Yeah,
we think everyone's come on the journey with us.
Everybody gets it first time, don't they?
But everybody got off at chapter 2.
Exactly. So, and again, I think this for me was one of the, back to that quote of, you know, it's not the book you read, it's the book you write that changes you. That it was going through that part of the process where I sort of, oh, no. I've really got to rethink this. And if I'm actually going to do this properly, I need to put it in much more of an ordered sequence and signpost it much more credibly and talk people through it together, you know, side by side, rather than perhaps defaulting kind of back to the webinar kind of scenario of lecturing people, you know, from on high, from some sort of so-called position of expertise.
So it's a business help book, I presume, with a narrative thread to it.
Yeah, well, it's a book around senior leadership teams.
Right.
Yeah, so how to ignite the energy, clarity and performance of a senior management team. So it's very much how you create, build and sustain that team.
Sounds relevant to a lot of people.
It sounds very relevant to a lot of people. So I was with a very good lady this morning, actually, in Australia, just talking. And fascinating to hear her quoting some of the stats around the cost of poor hiring and, you know, the consequences and disruption associated with poor hiring and the loss of momentum, which is almost like impossible to calculate in pounds, shillings and pence in terms of an ROI. You know, if you, you know, she was sort of arguing that, you know, you got 5 people in a team, which, you know, for a lot of people is a pretty good sized team. You know, sadly, stats are, you know, 40% of them churn every 2 years. So that's an expensive salary that you've burnt. It's an expensive salary to replace in terms of hiring fees. And there's a delay in terms of the onboarding and getting back to where you were before the previous occupant, who was presumably half good at what they were doing, decided to leave for whatever reason. So there's a huge disruption and, you know, hidden cost associated with churn. So anything that helps you to select and build a more cohesive team that's more tightly bound together, aligned, I think is the key word. So many teams are not aligned. They have a sort of false harmony around what they agree on when fundamentally they don't agree at all. They kind of live together, like a lot of marriages, when in fact they'd rather not be together. You know, how do you sort of get through that awkward moment? How do you have those difficult conversations? How do you break out from that trap and fairly sort of shallow, miserable kind of working life into producing something which is altogether much more productive for everyone?
So it's like a cross between a marriage counsellor and a football manager.
Yeah, well, I think the football manager analogy is actually very good, because I think the mistake that a lot of people fall into is thinking that they can operate the same team to grow and scale a business from 5, 10, 15, 20 to 50, 80, 100 million pounds. And it's very unlikely that that same team will exist at those different stages in the journey. And there's a art and a subtlety about knowing when to, back to my restructuring days, phase somebody in, phase somebody out.
Phase somebody out. Which is very similar, actually, using the football analogy, that Wrexham, if you do follow football, have done.
Exactly. So
they brought a load of players in to get out of the National League into the Football League. So they've got more players in to go further. Those players that helped them do that have been phased out. They've had to get more players in to get them into the Championship and up into the Premier League.
Absolutely. So there's this evergreening process. And I'm sure with Wrexham, I don't know the story in detail there, but I'm sure that's not just true for the players, but I'm sure it's true for the coaching staff, commercial teams, the whole organisation. I'm sure it's had to grow up, develop capabilities.
To get a new CEO in as well.
Yeah, all of that, because they've got the vision, the experience, the knowledge, the experience. So, I'd say that's probably one of the first traps a lot of people fall into.
Okay. So what is the book called? Because we haven't mentioned that yet, Les.
Lighting the Blue Touch Paper.
Lighting the Blue Touch Paper.
Yeah. And
sounds like you're about to set something on fire there.
Oh, yeah. Fantastic front cover. And
is it blue?
There's an element of blue in it.
Okay.
Yeah, blue sky, of course. But, so it's a handbook for igniting the energy, clarity, and performance of the senior management team.
And the book is available where?
From all good bookshops, and particularly Amazon, of
Particularly
course.
Amazon, of course, yeah.
In early December. I think it's 9th of December.
9th of December. So I believe this is going out in December. It's Christmas now, isn't it, Les? We'll run up to Christmas. Hope you got your tree up ready. It's not really, it's actually October, but, this is the magic of cinema, isn't it? Les is just dying in the corner there. We'll just wait for Les to die, and then we'll
yeah. Do a second coming.
You've set me off now.
Yeah.
It's the winter bug.
Yeah, first one. Just in time for Christmas. A good stocking filler.
Great stocking filler for all business owners and people looking to scale their business or run their management teams.
Yeah, to do it with less pain and agony.
So I think before we both die of a cold, I think it's time to pretty much wrap this one up, Les. So anyone listening to this that thinks, I want to find out more about you, or I want to learn out how I can sack loads of people from my business, or just to hear some more of your stories or work with you at 2020, what's the best way for them to get in touch?
Well, I do quite a lot of stuff on LinkedIn, so you can always find me hanging out on LinkedIn, as well as on my website. So www.20-20management.com. So just drop me an email through there.
Okay, I'll pop the link to that below the podcast. Anyone listening on iTunes or Spotify, it's in the show notes. If you're on YouTube, scroll down and it's in the description for that. Les, thank you very much for being a guest. I look forward to seeing, before you die, I look forward to seeing how your book turns out. Just send the paramedics quick.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
911. Oh, wrong country.
Yeah, wrong country.
Wrong country. Well, people know what I mean. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much. God.